Did you know that the Amazon rainforest is actually home to more than 120 indigenous nationalities? And did you even know further? Most of the people who have settled in the Amazon rainforest have actually been there for thousands of years. I mean, they have been there centuries before European conquistadors even came roaming in that really crazy dense forest. There's a group of people that I am focusing on today, which are the Yukpa people, and they live more in the northern regions of South America, which kind of includes places like Venezuela. More specifically, they have inhabited Sierra de Parija for thousands and thousands of years. I'm going to be drawing a person named Amusha, who's a very short myth. So today, we will be talking about the Amusha myth. We'll be talking more Yukpa myths as well, so we're expanding on their mythos generally. We're going to be talking about the history of the Yukpa people briefly, and most importantly, where the Yukpa people are today, and how we can actually help the Yukpa people and other people who do live and have settled in the Amazon rainforest all this time. So let's get drawing and let's talk about mythology. To begin, the Yukpa people, like I said, have been in the area of the Amazon rainforest near the Sierra de Parija for thousands of years. Before Spanish conquistadors did explore the Amazon rainforest and contacted some of the people like the Yukpa were more of an animist culture. Now, what does that mean? An animist belief system is basically that each person, each thing, everything has some sort of soul, essentially. Everything is very important. They are attuned with nature. Sun, stars, moon, everything is all interconnected and all very, very important, equally so. We know this because of the folktales and myths. A lot of their folktales feature powerful beings that are all associated with animals, sun, moon, plants, trees, etc., or humans turning into animals or vice versa. The world originally for the Yukpa were two flat discs, two articulating suns that would go around. Obviously now we know that it's one sun and one moon. Eventually that is what it was turned into, as the moon and the sun. Not only did the Yukpa believe in these two articulating globes, so our sun and moon, which is in essence kind of a mythical being, we have mythical animals like jaguars, frogs, armadillos, all kinds of stuff that help our mythical creator who creates all the rest of the living things. In fact, in some of the mythologies, primarily our mythical being, a powerful being who also is helped by their spouse, they are helped by a woodpecker to create humans out of a tree. So you can see through the mythology that we are all equal. The woodpecker is a creator, an assistant to a creator, and actually created humans. That's a pretty powerful place to be in. But we are all one. We are all helping each other. You can see this too in Yukpa cultural norms. Much of the Yukpa, they would take as much as they needed from the earth. There was no overabundance because they knew that they were all a part of this one ecosystem. And you needed to take some things, sure, of course, to live, but if you take too much, then eventually something you can't get enough later. The earth wouldn't be able to give that much back. So the Yukpa believe in only taking X amount. So that is all within the animist belief system. Now, the Amusha myth. It is super short, it's very sweet, but here's the issue with the Amusha myth. This myth was written by one person, one anthropologist. This anthropologist, Johannes Wilbert, he wrote this book in 1974, and I looked far and wide for this novel, and it is very difficult to find, and I could have bought it, but the reason why I didn't buy it is that he is one person who interviewed maybe a few Yukpa people to basically compose all of the Yukpa myths that have been around for thousands of years, and he's the only one. I just wasn't sure how accurate all of those myths were, so I just wanted to be very upfront with you. The creation myth and the animist belief system, those are all 100%. This very, very specific myth may or may not have been something that the Yukpa believed in, but maybe somebody at least, believed in Amusha at one time. Now here's the story. According to the Yukpa people in Venezuela, there was this little girl who turned into a deer. This little girl did not want to be stuck inside. She cried and cried and cried. It was so incessant until the mother decided to leave. Then when the mother decided to come back home, she realized that her daughter was nowhere to be found. Of course, there's a search party. She's trying to find her daughter because where could she possibly have gone? Eventually, they find Amusha, our adorable little deer who couldn't stop crying. She is tucked away in the roots of this really, really, really old tree. She's just snuggled up in there. Eventually, the little girl, she couldn't help herself, but she just didn't want to eat anything except for leaves. And eventually she started to grow spots and she started to grow fur. And eventually this little girl, Amusha, she grew 4 legs. She already had 2, but she turned into a deer. She just transformed and she lived happily in the forest. So now I've talked about a creator myth that talks about a woodpecker that helps create humans. We have a myth featuring a girl transforming into a deer. There's other myths out there, such as even in the afterworld, we have people who have to trek through the forest, scary, dark, horrible forest. There's this raging river over there, these giant wall you can't pass through. Eventually, people have to come by this cabin, and this cabin is ruled by this mythical, amazing frog woman whose name is Copecho. And what Copecho asks before they can pass or go to the good afterlife, they have to weave a basket. Now, if you fail at weaving a basket, or if you just don't do a very good job weaving a basket, you are sent away into this raging river, flailing along. Eventually you are consumed by the animals, the beasts that lurk in the forest. Now, if you do a good job with your basket, you will go into the afterlife, the really good one. Yay. So there's a lot of myths that involve animals and trees and rivers and beasts and all kinds of stuff. So where are the Yukpa people today, and what has happened over time? Now, believe it or not, so the conquistadors, or the Spanish, probably made contact with the Yukpa people around the 16th century, and they were looking for none other than El Dorado. Not the movie, but, you know, same story. And we kind of know that a lot of these encounters were probably not peaceful, and they were not with the Yukpa people. The Yukpa people were further driven up into the mountains until we have the 17th and 18th century, where we start getting Catholic missionaries who are going through and converting people. So the Yukpa people today, they might maintain some of those animist beliefs. In fact, a lot of their cultural norms and how they approach certain things is still very much so in that mindset, but many of them say that they are Catholic currently. The Yukpa people have been driven out of their lands, and this is mostly for resources. The Yukpa people over time, since the European colonization, have been driven out of their lands, and even further, many people, there's no one trade route. There's been a lot of division between the Yukpa people, so there might be some in Venezuela and some in other places, and because of all of that separation, it's getting harder and harder to maintain a lot of their cultural norms and their heritage themselves. Not only that, the Yukpa people have been living in this land, the Sierra de Parija, for thousands of years. Again, it is sacred land. They've been there forever. So they've always been trying to reclaim that land, and deforestation has made it even worse because there's soon to be no land left. Additional problems that are arising currently, and honestly have been arising this whole time, is that the Yukpa people who are living now in urban areas, places that are now just kind of full cities, and they have been kind of let in and they have certain rights, but they still do not have access to medical care like vaccinations or just general medical care. Many of the Yukpa people who live in the urban areas don't even have adequate housing and decent, not even good, decent living conditions are almost totally out of the norm for many indigenous populations, especially from the Amazon rainforest. And a lot of the Yukpa people can't even get jobs because there's so much discrimination against indigenous communities. It's hard to understand if you've been placed in a absolutely foreign world and you were told to live a specific way, but you've been living in one way all of your life and trying to transition into this new way of living. It can feel alienating, even more so if you were not supported. Even further when your home has been forcibly taken away from you and being destroyed. This is why I am kind of promoting something a little different today, and that is I would love it if you would check out Amazon Watch, and that is in the description down below. It is the first link. I am donating to Amazon Watch too. I know that's not available for everybody, but at least learning more about the situation and educating ourselves on not just the environmental factors, on the destruction of the Amazon forest, but how it actually affects the people that live there. And there's so many things that are going on that I didn't even know about. So I urge you to check out Amazon Watch, their message, their work. If you can, donate. That would be amazing. But just learning about different people, their way of life, and how what is happening right now is incredibly destructive for everybody. It's horrible. And if that doesn't help you, Little Nas actually supports Amazon Watch. So, there we go. You can find other resources down below if you want to learn more about the Yukpa people, their myths, folktales, and maybe more about the Amazon and some of the people that live in the Amazon currently. There's a lot of amazing people out there, and I can't wait to learn more about some of their myths. Also, for this art challenge, we were drawing Amusha over on my Discord. You can find also my socials down below. Feel free to join me if you like my art, etc. But in my Discord channel, which is free to join for everybody, our art challenge this week was for Amusha, and here we have Anna Sova, who drew an amazing version of Amusha. It's so cool to see different people's interpretations of the same myth. That's the human condition. It's just really cool to see. Again, stop by my socials. If you do like my art, make sure to follow. You can like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what kind of myths you guys are looking for, and continue to learn. There's a lot of cool myths out there from plenty of places around the world. Thanks so much.